What's up guys, Barry Gaming here, back with some more AFK Journey, and today we're going to be talking about the hero that I think everybody has built, everybody seems to love, especially in the early game, Cecia. So this is a hero that can be very strong in the early game. Of course, you get the first copy of her completely free with your first 10 pull, and it's just guaranteed you're going to get here no matter what on your account. And let's be honest, she is a pretty cool looking hero, and the ability for her ultimate, Queen's Summons, to summon Mr. Carlisle on the battlefield, literally has shaped the way early game teams are created. You have Coco, you have a tank like Antandra or Brutus in the front row, you have Smokey and Mirky, which is going to help you in a ton of different game modes, and you have Rowan feeding energy to her to get to this immediately as possible. We've had tons and tons of videos. Actually, one of our highest view videos on the channel, the current meta basically, was talking about this. But my question is it a mistake really going past Mythic Plus on Cecia? Now here's a couple things I'm going to say right out of the gate. Her Mythic Plus isn't like hugely game impacting here. It does add a little bit of control elements to the things. She does absorb some like defense from the enemies, but that defense usually doesn't matter that much. And Supreme Plus reduces the required normal attacks to trigger Agonizing Puncture, which again isn't really what she's here for. She's not necessarily here for her main damage. She's here for her summon, Mr. Carlisle. That is the big highlight of her. Even in season right now, she gains crit and haste when there's no enemies within like a certain range of her, which is cool. The haste means that she's going to potentially get to an ultimate faster. But is this even a hero worth pushing past Mythic Plus? And my answer is pretty much no. Why is that? Well, if we look at a couple different places in the game modes, if we take a look at Dream Realm, once you get the proper hero set up on your account, she is no longer used. In the early game, you're forced to pretty much use her because, well, she's your strongest hero, and you just use heroes that can survive when you're in the early game. When you get to the later game, you'd use more optimal team setups. PvP, she's kind of too slow for PvP, to be honest. Her ability takes way too long to get online versus other heroes like Carolina and such, so that's not really a great one. Legend Trial she can be good at, but I think one thing that Graveborn suffers from here is only having Hero as a healer here, which is not great. Battle Drills, again, she can be useful on if you're like one of the wave killers, but once you get to the bosses, not as useful. And then of course we have the world battles. Those she's actually pretty good at. However, when you get into Song of Strife season, she's gonna be way too slow. Most of these battles that we're experiencing, especially when we're pushing up into the 400s here, are basically decided or over way too quickly to even get her to an ultimate. Granted, there are some like silver linings, these little strategies you can do that once you get some of the season artifacts, such as Cascade Spell, we're using it right here to give our Coco a little burst of energy at the very beginning of the battle. It actually looks like we might be able to get a win here too, but I'm going to show you guys what it kind of looks like with a Cecia. It can be good, however, her summon feels completely inferior to someone like Florabelle. So I'm going to take you out. I'm going to show you guys the one strategy that I have still used her in with the Cascade Spell, and that's mainly to get her to an ultimate very quickly. The biggest issue I feel like still though is the squishiness of Mr. Carlisle. Yes, he comes out, but he gets beat down very quickly if you're not accompanying with a ton of CC. And you can see he's about to go down there again. He did contribute a little bit to the battle, but when you're comparing it to some of the burst between Aaron, you got these Celestial heroes, you got Alsa, you got Carolina, you got Arden. There's just so many more key heroes that it kind of just feels like she's a bit of a waste. Now, yeah, she's doing better than Aaron and Scarlita, but they're not really there for the damage per se, whereas she is pretty much only there for the damage. Granted, there can be some pretty cool synergies with heroes like Alsa if you're building her, but I will say using her as your first hero is still the best strategy to do because you do get that first free copy, and beyond that, one of the most important things on building your first main like carry hero is she is in the arena store. And that's why a lot of times when people are talking about their build on her, you never put Cecia on your banner. You usually don't put Brutus on your banner. Sometimes you leave Rowan on your wishlist banner for a little while until you can get a copy. But I think the biggest issue here is that there's just better options to go for between Carolina and your Thorin. Thorin is going to be like one of the best tanks in the early game. Carolina is going to turn into the best damage dealer on your account very quickly. And if you care about PvP, those two heroes are going to be much more important. Carolina and Thorin is part of like almost every PvP composition. On top of that, focusing on other heroes potentially down the road like Aaron, Carolina, like we said, that combo is insane. And then one of the lesser picked heroes in the early game for free to play especially is Arden. Arden quickly becomes one of the best damage dealers even in AFK battles, but again, it does require him to get up to like Mythic Plus because that gives him more crowd control chances. But again, once you have like, it's like Cecia does good up to a point and then you completely transition away from her. So my big suggestion is do not over invest in here. Honestly, if it was my option again, I probably wouldn't even taken her to 2-star with the level 2, the EX +5 Thorns, Trial of Thorns. I just don't think it's worthwhile, and sinking too much investment into this hero in the long run is going to hurt your progression on other heroes. One of the bigger reasons for this too is coming down to the fact that a lot of times you are fighting up against enemies much higher level than you, and proficiency is a stat that comes into play based on your basically level versus the enemy's level. And when she is significantly lower level than the enemies, Mr. Carlisle is not that great of an option. The one thing that Florbell does have going for her is the fact that she does have more summons, and her summons kind of work better the way that their skills are set up. And on top of that, when she does get to Mythic Plus, she can actually provide shields to her summons, whereas when you get Cecia to Mythic Plus, doesn't really do all that much. Like, and you can even see if you go further with her, it's just increasing the entangle target's damage taken by a certain percentage every second, which is good. It's not like it's a bad thing, but when your whole strategy is relying on Mr. Carlisle to be the heavy hitter and survivability tool, that's where you come into an issue. Because even with running heroes like Coco, where'd Coco go? Oh yeah, she's up the top here because she's one of the best heroes. Even with her full energy blast, and even when you get her to Mythic Plus with the fluffy shield, Mr. Carlisle can still be very squishy, not doing enough damage. And that's why other compositions that run Carolina, that run Arden, and most certainly build Aaron. I quickly became an Aaron fan the second Alsa came out. Before that, I was like, yeah, Aaron's good. He works on like one team. But now that we're getting more heroes, Aaron seems to be more of that flexible hero that can be used in almost any team composition out there. So yes, this can technically work with the Cecia, but Cecia's ultimate's usually way too slow. The big thing I want you guys to take away from this is don't over invest into your Cecia. Getting her up to Mythic Plus most of the time is going to solve all of your problems, and then work on some other team compositions that are coming down the road, like Aaron, Carolina, that type stuff. I wouldn't hyper focus her, and beyond that, you don't need to leave her on the wish list for too long, because you can buy her in the arena store to continue leveling her up. Also, be careful. Get her exclusive unlocked at Mythic Plus. I personally wouldn't invest too much more in it. It just seems like Temporal Essence and all those Tidal Essence are just very, very premium, especially on early game free-to-play accounts. So if you do sink it into this character, you might regret it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you guys think. Again, she's not a bad hero, just one you will eventually drop off on your account. And I'll see you guys next time.